How do you feel about these companies and even Trump implementing like this executive order?
Objectively, subjectively, a lot of it disgusting. For example, I don't inundate myself with news, but I think that his rhetoric and how he does things is a lot of it is just very deplorable for me as a human being at my core.
Limitations on being able to allow for like negligence, right? Any limitations that are placed when I'm told I can't get more than this amount, it's a slap in my face because basically you're putting a number on that.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Only Lawsuits podcast. To everybody who's been tuning in over the past few weeks, thank you so much. We're coming in hot and heavy for the month of January and February. And today we have a very special guest. You might have seen, if you're in the Orlando area, you might have seen him perform all across Central Florida. He is a well-known local celebrity, I'd say, host, MC, artist, my long-term friend, Curtis McKinnon. What's going on, man?
What's up, Josh? What's up, man? Thank you for that warm introduction. I always get weird when I get introduced because I'm like hearing things about me for like a long period of time. I'm like, it's a little uncomfortable now.
Well, has there ever been a time that you've someone's introduced you with something incorrectly and then you've like had to correct them afterward?
Not really in my line of work, because usually they ask me for a bio and then be like, what do you want, type of thing. But then it got to a point where I was like, this list is too long and I'm uncomfortable listening to my accomplishments for this long.
No, but you know what's cool though is like you've done a little bit of everything, right? Like you got your start as a musical artist, right? As a rapper. And you slowly segued into being a well-known poet, and now MC. How's that journey been for you as an artist?
It's wild, right? Because we were talking about it off camera, but just really the journey. I'm not gonna sugarcoat the whole lot here. Because again, I'm 36, right? I had my dreams of the first time I seen an MC do what they do at a level that made me say that's what I want to do. It was when Jay-Z was in the Garden. Filming for the Black Album. Okay. And my introduction to hip hop was Tupac. Not my introduction, that's a lie. Tupac made me fall in love with hip hop. But Jay-Z at Fade to Black, that thing he did in Madison Square Garden is what made me want to do that with my life. But it was less about hip hop and more so about one person being able to bring people together.
That's a cool concept.
So it was just like, when I saw that documentary, my brain goes, They pan the audience, right? You're looking at Madison Square Garden, and this is pre-social media. We're talking in 2003, right? Yeah. So you're looking at the audience, and then automatically in my mind go, there's somebody in that crowd that probably can't stand somebody else on the other side of the arena, but they're both there for one thing, and this guy is the common denominator. And I was like, that's what I want to do.
It's an interesting perspective. I've never thought about it like that.
So with that, it's like I've tailored my life to be, to try to be a person that brings people together for good. And so even with my art. And so being able to do that, the amount of, I don't have a metric system, but the amount of people that I have been able to bring together over the course of time is, it is remarkable. And to a point, like I host now. So as I do less of the artistry, I still do artistry because we just did a compilation album, New Intimacy. With Hattie Inez, SB The Anomaly, Mark Made, Slim Truth, Just Incredible, man, Del Chavon. There's so many people, but being able to bring people together as a host and have an environment that's like where people feel safe and feel comfortable to express themselves, it's important for me because that's what I needed and wanted as an artist, you know what I mean, to be able to grow. So the journey has been incredible, just looking back, because a lot of times you're like, I haven't done this particular thing yet. I haven't done that. We were just talking about it. But then I'm like, I performed at Dr. Phillips Center twice. I was like, I've done the news. I've done, again, like modeling, acting. And in part, thanks to, there's so many people, but in part, thanks to Josh, he takes such great headshots. And shout out to, my more consistent photographers, Oranges Media. I say photographers like I have a ton, but Oranges Media, Javaris, Dope, and Josh. But his headshots have gotten me bookings for where I didn't even have to audition. It was just like they look at it and they're like, oh yeah, that one. I've auditioned so much and almost never got picked. And then I'm like, well, if I'm getting picked for things that I'm not even trying for, I'm like, there's something in the air here. So I'm like, that's why I big up Josh when I can, because he's helped. But also I've had to do work on the back end. But the journey really has been incredible, and I'm just super grateful. I'm super grateful and just blessed.
So there's definitely two things I want to touch on that you mentioned. Number one, which is easier, is I want to definitely acknowledge Josh's like ability to do what he does. I remember, we as a law firm, before we started the media company and before we really took off on doing our social media campaign for marketing and everything we do, we were still, I always had that vision where I wanted to like have that super clean, crisp look. And I have a lot of friends that are photographers. Yeah. And, there was something about that. I did pictures with them and headshots with them, and they were good. They were really good. But I'll never forget, Josh was in Cali. He was in town, and I was like, let me call Josh. Yeah. So I called Josh. Josh was in town. He like rolled up with his camera and a like light bulb on a stick. And I was like, Jesus Christ, what did I like, what am I paying for? Right. So I don't even think I was paying him, but still I was just like, what, this can't be good. Right. So I was like, he's one of my best friends. I'm going to let him do this. Dude, when I saw those pictures, I was like, I shit myself because it was so good. And I was like, man, he just walked up with a stick and a light bulb on it. So,
MacGyver.
Yeah, I was like, this guy just literally has a light bulb on a stick. And I was like, this is cool. So, yeah, Josh is incredible with his eye and his talent. But one of the other things that I wanted to touch base on that you mentioned was the concept of, performers and entertainers, bringing a group of people that are diverse in thought at times, but they're there for one single person and their, love for that person. How do you feel? So if you were put in a position where you were paid to endorse a politician or something like that, with that concept in mind, how does it make you feel? Do you feel like entertainers should only be with people they truly agree with, or do you think they should accept money for their endorsement?
That's a great question, man. It's a great question.
It's a phenomenal question. I think it's a decision, and this isn't even me being PC. It's literally you have to do what's best for yourself. Yeah. I think you have to. You can't make a blanket statement and say this is what entertainers should do. This is what lawyers should do. Yeah. This is what not. Unless you're a doctor, well, a lawyer, I'm pretty sure there's oaths that have to be taken, right?
Yeah, and at the end of the day, self-interest is what rules all of our decisions, right?
Absolutely. That's true. Oh man. So, for example, like right now you have people that are, this is such a you have people right now that are upset at Snoop Dogg, Rick Ross. Yeah, people that are upset. I mean, you're going to have people that are upset either way you slice it. Yeah. When you're performing for somebody that's in politics. Because I feel like people have a lot of people don't really compartmentalize well to understand that just because me and Josh are friends. Yeah. You think that everything Josh says and thinks and does, I agree with 100%?
Exactly.
No. If I did, then I probably have never said this before, then me and him would probably be together. I'm not, You know what I mean? Like there's no, there's no, and if people that know me, like my fan base,
I love you too, Kurt. I love you too, man.
The point that I'm making is that you can't fully agree. There's no one on this planet that I agree with 1,000% with everything they do. Now, if you say and do things that are completely against my moral compass and like just the fiber of my being, then it's like I can't. There has to be some type of a common goal to where if I was in that position and somebody in politics, like this repugnant, despicable sycophant. I like using those words because like I love like the cartoon villains, like their talk when they're just like berating someone is the best. But those like sycophant is like, you know, somebody that's just like around someone that only has yes men around them. Shout out to Magneto. I was gonna wear my X-Men shirt today actually, but in any case, if you're doing business or having conversation with somebody that's like that, if there is a common goal that is to be accomplished, at some point you have to say, for the greater good, you have to work with this person. Like there is we all work in corporations of some form or fashion, right? You have to be able to decide, is my purpose as an artist going to help what my goal is, not just for pure self-interest, but what am I trying to accomplish? And is this particular vehicle going to help me get this thing across? Yeah. And assess whether or not that risk is worth it or not. You know what I mean? If the optics are way too bad, then it's just like, not right now. Like, I don't think anybody, if Diddy's doing a podcast, you know what I mean? Like most, you know what I mean? It's like, but it's Diddy. But it's like, but right now,
I'll tell you what, though. I'll tell you what. If Johnson had a podcast and Diddy went on it, I'd fucking go. I would watch that shit to see. You have 1,000 bottles of it.
But yeah, man, I just think everybody has to make that decision for themselves. You can't draw with a broad brush and say all entertainers should do this and should do that. Yeah. But as long as your moral compass is intact and you can say, yeah, this person might be a piece of crap when it comes to this, but for this specific goal, then make the decision. Go do the thing.
Well, and I think what's really important, and you kind of hit on it, is look, at one point you mentioned, you know, Snoop Dogg, right? He criticized Donald Trump and anyone that performed for him, but he was performing at the inauguration, right?
Yep.
But here's the thing. I think like life is about moving into different stages, right? At a certain point when you're younger, you tend to think a certain way. As you get older, it shifts because your life changes, etc. So
exactly.
I mean, just because I think that the concept of being able to go from one side to the other is the natural, you know, growth of you as a human, right? And you should be able to have diversity of thought regardless of, you know, what you do. So I think it's interesting. I don't think anyone should judge anyone per se, but I do judge people sometimes that just absolutely will not take any form of, you know, diversity of thought. You know, they have one mind, one track, and it's like you can't learn, you know, from the other side. And not saying you got to agree with them per se, but you gotta to be able to listen to someone's argument, digest it, consume it, and then, you know, create a counter argument is a skill and an art.
Yeah, you can only this goes to I'm a huge nerd. I'm a huge nerd. I love anime. I love wrestling. I watched the Royal Rumble last night. If there's bags under my eyes, it's because I was, you know, just having the time of my life last night. But the point that I was going to make, what you said, there's I don't know if you've ever seen the show Avatar: Last Airbender.
I think so, yeah.
Okay. So
great show.
General Iroh, he's teaching his nephew, who's a firebender. I don't know how many nerds you got on here, but he's teaching his nephew about the principles of the 4 elements. Right? It's 4 nations, and they were all together in harmony at one point, and then somebody started war, and then there was a division in the 4 of them. The Avatar is the only person that can master all 4 elements, and then you have these different groups. But he's teaching his son, or his nephew, who he's like a son to him, he's teaching him about a technique that he could only learn as a firebender. He could only learn it from the water tribe. And if he's saying that if you get information from one place only, like, it becomes rigid and stale. And it's just like the concept of that is so important because, again, we work with people. Like, I feel like there's never been a time in life where people are so anti-people. It's like you realize, like, you need that guy to take out your trash on Thursdays.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're not going to do it. Like, you do need people. You need to find a way to be able to work with people, whether you like them or not, to some form of fashion. So I agree 1,000% with what you're saying. Doesn't mean you're not going to come over to my house for dinner. You know what I mean? We're not going to go, play ball together, whatever it is that you like doing. But you have to be able to find a human denominator in someone. And if you can't do that, if it's just like it's this and this only, and that's it, you're handicapping yourself.
And that's a great example of something. That's a great example using Avatar, because Avatar is a cartoon that, for all intents and purposes, it was geared more toward, children or teenagers. But that life lesson that they're teaching in that is something that a lot of older people could actually absorb, because I think a lot of times, especially with politics, people play identity politics, and they get stuck within like these echo chambers. So even like you guys talking about these artists who are performing at like these political rallies or the inauguration, just because they're performing there doesn't necessarily mean that they believe in everything that Trump stands for.
Right.
They have their own reasons for performing. It could be wanting to appeal to another audience. Maybe they're performing there because they're trying to unite people as well, saying like, hey, like we might have differences in perspective, but look, we're all United States citizens.
Yeah, and to further that, I think artists, especially musicians, I think they have such a strong ability to unite people the way you described it, Curtis. It really, now that you mentioned it, it's kind of like making me realize, look, there's a lot of, the one artist that I've been listening to a lot lately is, Big X the Plug. I've been listening to Shabuzi.
Okay.
I obviously listen to a lot of country music, like with Morgan Wallen.
Okay.
These guys collaborate with Morgan Wallen collaborated with Lil Durk. Big X and Shabuzi collaborated on a hip hop / country type song.
Okay.
And like when you start mixing the two cultures that used to be so anti each other, it used to be one of those things where you never used to see those paths cross over, and the byproduct of them crossing over is actually really amazing.
And those crossovers, like, it opens up people's minds.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of people now that will listen to hip hop and country and start going into a whole new, type of thing. Yeah. I don't really care for super old country. I think people refer to what I like as more like bro country, but I used to listen to a lot of like, alternative rock, stuff like that in the early 2000s when
we all did.
That's what we grew up with, So it's kind of like we're in this weird transitional phase where, we can listen to Nickelback, Creed, and then, something totally different. And I feel like we're now in this melting pot where music's starting to really come together, because there's a lot of music festivals. Music festivals are a huge thing. And like I used to go to Tortuga Music Festival down in Fort Lauderdale all the time.
Okay.
And it's primarily a country-based music festival. But dude, they would have like Shaggy there, Nelly there. And I'm like, yo, I love this. You know what I'm saying?
Man, that's the what do you call it? The spice of life. It's like you can't just one flavor all the time. Like we're all creatures of habits. Like we have our go-tos. Josh was talking about you're like a barista. You love your coffee or whatnot. I'm a water guy, but not today. I'm drinking both.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like two things can live amongst each other. But yeah, man, I love the exposure. I was having a conversation on the way here, and I was just thinking about the fact that I realized how many people that I'm close with that really like are antisocial and they don't really like people, and I'm the guy that's like, lightning rod. It's like, you guys don't like humanity and society, but y'all like me. It's like, so it's just like, I think I have a unique perspective also as an artist, like you said, like they're the conduits to bringing people together, and it's not for everybody, but I know I was chosen for this. I was born to be in this space to where it's like, I didn't choose for the desire to be there. I saw something that was like, that spoke to my heart, and it was like, this is what I want to do with my life, because I think there's a benefit there. And not everybody has the capacity to do that. You have those people that are like, if it's not, I grew up Christian in the church, both of my parents believe the same God, Jesus Christ. I still believe in Jesus Christ, as my Lord and Savior. Do I do everything by the book, by the Bible? Absolutely not. That's just not possible. But the point that I even bring that up is to say, I have friends that are people that I know that are atheists, Jehovah's Witness, Muslim, Freemason, people that I know that have been kind to me, that I have good rapport with. But when it comes to those things, it's like, okay, these topics I may not go delve into, but my biggest thing is like, how are you treating people?
Yeah.
How do you treat people? That's why I can be diverse or be in different audiences and groups, because at the end of the day, respect me as a human being. My respect for humanity is still the same across the board. So gotcha. I feel like people, as long as you have that, you should be able to see someone or have a conversation with someone and not spontaneously combust.
Well, that's a good, that's a good segue into, because we're talking about diversity. Mm-hmm. That's a good segue into this new, these new Trump executive orders. Finalizing finalizing, getting rid of a lot of like these DEI initiatives and programs that the government has had. Yeah. And over the last few years, we've had multiple corporations like across the U.S. get rid of like their DEI programs. So for somebody that is speaking about diversity, equity, and inclusion, how do you feel about these companies and even Trump implementing like this executive order?
Objectively, subjectively, a lot of it disgusting. I think that, for example, I don't inundate myself with news. I try to keep myself aware now, but I don't inundate myself with news to go down the rabbit hole and go into this spiraling, like, woe is me, the world is going to collapse at any moment type of thing. But I think that his rhetoric and how he does things is a lot of it is just very deplorable for me as a human being at my core. You know what I mean? I cannot stand beside that. I know that but also I was here in 2016 and I saw where it didn't seem like it was possible for this guy to be elected. Yep. And then it was like, okay, this is what people chose. You know what? I'm going to take you back to that night at the election, because I was by myself in my house, and I'm going to go to 2016 and I'm going to bring it back to the DI thing. Promise we're going to focus. We're going to stay on topic. I remember thinking to myself, watching this man say, he got up there as a Republican. By the way, there's an article and there's whatnot that shows that he said that if he ever was to run, he'd run as a Republican because they're the dumbest and they're the most whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
He's doing the things that he said that he would do, right? So that's one. I'm not making this up. I'm a big fact checker. If I don't know something to be a fact, I'll say Google it and fact check, or be like, I'm not sure, look it up, right? So don't just take my word for all of the things. I remember him going up there and saying, because Republicans by large in part are the party that is like conservative, has Christian values, I'll say quote unquote, and all of these things, right? This man got up there and said, I don't ask for forgiveness because I don't do anything wrong. I will never forget that. So when as a believer, and as just a person, if you strip away my religious affiliation, you strip away that thing. Yeah. As a human and as a man, if you tell me, this is anybody, that you're never wrong, I do not trust you at all. I can't. you can be confident in what you're doing and believe that what you're doing is right in the moment at all times. You're making the best decision. But if you can never retroactively being like, that was a mistake. I think I could have did that differently.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If you can't do that, how can I trust your I can't trust your leadership. To me, I can't as a man, I just can't. And so with that being said, once I saw that, and then I was like, this is my brain. Once I saw that, and then I saw the stuff getting closer, and then the margin of gap with him versus Hillary, right? And then I was like, I'm waiting up all night. I'm like, okay, watching the news, and then I'm by myself watching it, and then I'm like, it's not over yet. And then I was like, you know what? I was like, I said, he has a real chance of winning after he said all of the things. And I was like, I'm going to bed. I woke up, I saw that he won, and I was like, I said 50 million people. And I will say this until I'm dead or until my memory goes to crap. I said, regardless of the semantics of the electoral college versus the popular vote and all of those things, I said 50 million people said, this is a good idea. This is my guy. I don't care how close it is. 50 million people, was half. They said, this is my guy. I said, cool. I know who I'm around now. I'm aware.
It's kind of crazy, though, because I'm glad you touched upon 2016, right? Regardless of politics, it is crazy to see how meteoric his rise was, because I remember being in Thailand at the time. I was living in Thailand, and the Republican primaries were going on at the time. And I would have all of like these Europeans and Australians asking me as the American, how are you Americans allowing like Donald Trump to, how are you Americans allowing Donald Trump to make as much headway in the primaries as he is? And, the one thing that I kept on saying is like, look, like, I think voters are fed up, and I really think people are just underestimating him. And that's literally what I was telling them. And it was kind of crazy because like I wasn't really looking at politics at the time. I wasn't really paying attention, because like, look, I'm in an international country. I'm living, overseas, but everything that I saw, it was just, he's so good at driving media attention toward himself. So when I finally moved back to LA and the election took place between him and Hillary, you're talking about like the reaction of the people around you and yourself when he was actually announced as president. I remember it felt like a bomb went off in Los Angeles. Like people were in such shock. Like I had friends, visiting, like very liberal friends, like Europeans, like, oh, I can never see myself staying in the United States now. And then they want to move to Canada. They want to move back home. No one ended up doing anything.
So like going back to that, specifically the 2016 election, that was, when I went to undergrad at University of Central Florida, I studied politics or political science pre-law, right? And that was kind of my focal point. It was the one thing, I'm generally more of a libertarian.
Okay.
The one thing that generally kind of learned in undergrad was politics is all, politicians will say and do anything to get elected, right? And it's very rare that you'll see a politician go away from the talking points, to go away from it.
Right.
So when I saw, Trump get into the arena in 2016, I was like, there's no fucking way that he's going to do this. This is going to be either Bush or Clinton, and it's going to be the same system that it's been since the past 20 something years.
Right.
So when I saw that, I was dumbfounded when he won. I genuinely did not understand. I'm like, well, maybe everything I learned was all at UCF, because now we're seeing something totally different. So,
and one thing that I'll say too, and Curtis touched upon it, because I think like a big misconception amongst like a lot of people is that, because Trump did say that, like factually, I'm going to put that on screen for people to see that he did say that he was going to run as a Republican, basically because of how stupid Republicans were. But for somebody like him to get into office, he had to basically get a pretty substantial portion of the liberal vote as well. Like there are a lot of people that have voted for him that were once very, very liberal leaning. People that voted for Obama, people that voted for Clinton.
Now I think, but I think back then he did a great job at, solidifying the conservative base. And then the problem I feel was the reason why Trump got elected in the beginning was because the Democrats put forth a candidate that really was not good. I didn't think Hillary was the best candidate that could have came out of that. And what happened is you had people like me that did not vote. We still voted, but we didn't vote for Trump or we didn't vote for Hillary. We voted for Johnson. Johnson cleared huge margins from the independents. Okay. So, when you analyze the political spectrum, I think Gary Johnson pulled in almost all states that he was allowed to be on the ballot, which I believe was a majority of them. I think the margins were at least 2 to 3% on average, and it was like a historical thing where Gary Johnson, like no third party candidate, especially libertarian, pulled as many votes
unless you were unless like you were like Ralph Nader or something like that, or even Ross Perot back in Bush and Clinton. But to drive both your points home, because you both brought up excellent points. Curtis, he brought up the point like it's hard to trust Trump. Right. As somebody that is known for, saying a lot of like fraudulent things. But, on the Democratic side, when you're bringing up Hillary Clinton, it was very hard to even trust that party because they essentially shit on Bernie. Right, shoved him to the side and propped up Hillary Clinton.
Dude, I thought if Bernie would have ran in there, I think Bernie
could have won.
Could have won. I don't agree with necessarily everything he says. A lot of what he says, but I think from a ideological point of view, he was the best candidate at the time for the party.
I agree. I was going to say, I don't know how much time we got when it comes to this stuff, but I rarely have these conversations. So the fact I'm even doing this right now is like, again, testament. Shout out to you, Josh. But again, Bernie Sanders, I agree. And that time, that is who I voted for. I was like, who did I? Yep, it was him.
Yeah.
And I either wrote his name in or somebody that was independent. But I think that Bernie didn't get chosen. Not only, like you say, he got shit on by the Democratic Party or whatnot. When I looked at Bernie again, and I think it was in 2020, I said, this man is so convicted in his beliefs. That's a good thing for him and for that base. But what it showed me is that objectively, I step outside of it, he's not going to work well with people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that's going to hurt him. I was just like, it's not PC enough for people to be like, I can side with that, or I can agree with that point. And then he pigeonholed himself. I agreed with a good amount of what he did, but to your point, like again, coming back to being able to work with people.
Yeah.
But he stayed true as a man and as a person.
Stays true to what
you believe.
And I respect him 100% for that. Like, I might not agree with all of his policies.
Yeah.
But I can say unequivocally, at least from my perspective, my opinion on him, I feel like he's one of the more honest politicians in Washington.
I mean, until I saw. Until I saw when during the RFK thing where he was like, I never took any money from pharmaceutical companies.
He was pissed off.
And then fucking
I watched that entire
RFK or someone posted something online and it was like $1 million to Bernie Sanders from pharmaceutical companies.
They got him.
Gee, see, and that's the thing, right? You can't like there's no I don't think anybody, again, we're talking about politics right now.
Yeah.
But if we remove that, we're talking about human beings. There is no like moral absolution to where you've never done, like you could say it on camera, you could do the things, unless you have a camera on you 24/7 and whatnot, nobody's knowing what you're thinking and what you're doing all of the time. But you can't say you can't say you've never done the thing. Look at how quickly they pull that up. I was talking to my friend, Preacher Lawson. He's just a famous comedian. He actually just won a gold medal last night for doing something in martial arts. He's another like Renaissance person. But
whoa, he's a comedian and a preacher and a martial artist.
So his name is Preacher. His name is Preacher Lawson. Yeah. He was actually on America's Got Talent. He made it to like the final 3 or something like that. Right?
He's not a preacher.
He's not a preacher.
No, okay.
Yeah,
I was
just
like,
his
whoa.
name. It's a nickname. It's a nickname that his mom gave him. He was like, he even has a joke about it. He was like, I don't know what I was doing at 2. Like, you know, in the bathtub walking on water, goo goo gaga. He's like, can I get a win? You know, like he, you know, but he's you know, obviously he grew up in a Christian background as well. But the point is, he.
I gotta say this.
Yeah, go ahead.
If I think it's cool that a comedian's also a martial artist, because like, if you don't laugh at his jokes, he then beats your ass.
Literally last night in the comments, Roy Wood Jr. said the same thing. He was just like, "Yo, this is like if you don't laugh at my jokes, or you come to my show, and then like I'm knocking you out." To be like, you can't. He has the best defense system. Period. He has the best defense system. Period. Forgive me. I let myself get off track. We were talking about. Repeat your.
I'm so gone.
Okay,
that's no idea.
Terrible.
We've been bouncing around a lot. Like we originally started with
we were
like
supposed to talk about DEI.
Yeah, we were originally talking about like the DEI initiative
and Bernie Sanders and all of the things and whatnot. Gosh. Anyway, whatever. It's a shameless plug for Preacher Lawson. I think we're gonna get back on topic at some point, but anyway, dope person, and I don't know. I don't know.
Let's go into DEI. Honestly, look, I'll be honest with you. I don't really pay attention to. I didn't even know DEI was like a formal thing. Mm-hmm. It's not something. Not to sound ignorant or anything. I literally just don't pay attention to people's personal like lives. I don't look at race. I don't look at who you want to have sex with. I don't look at who you identify. When I'm hiring people and when I'm doing, it's just not something I care to deal with. I look at simple things, qualifications, right? You know, I don't want a clown to be drafting my complaints for my lawsuits, right? Or a mime to be a lawyer because mimes don't speak. So, can you imagine that?
That's a funny concept. Yeah.
So when I heard about this whole DEI shit that's popped up, I was honestly like, holy shit, I didn't really think they had this system in there that they looked at these things. And to go a little bit deeper in that, you know, in the legal profession, right, they created, what's it called? Affirmative action, right? Affirmative action was created to balance out the systematic racism that had previously been rampant in America, as we all know, right? You know, but the way it was explained to me in law school, when affirmative action was brought to our attention in law school, I've known about affirmative action my whole life. Yeah. But the way it was broken down in law school, they really kind of hammered on the point, whereas they created this law and this system of this ideology of affirmative action to give people that were otherwise not qualified the opportunity to be qualified. And maybe that's not the way it was exactly broken down to me, but that's the way I digested it internally.
Interesting.
So when I looked, like it was a situation where I felt, and I looked around at, you know, my classmates and even myself, and I thought, at some point, did anyone think that they were not, when they heard those same words, did they think that I'm only here because of a legal policy, not because of the concept of I can actually be here, right? So like, to me, it automatically made me question. I understand the theory behind diversity or affirmative action and the inclusion of certain things like DEI stuff, but it makes me really like pissed off that that's even a factor when I'm being considered for something. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that you have to meet like, a certain quota.
Am I only here because I'm brown? You know?
I think I hear you, and I think that here's why it's such a not just a hot topic, but why it's so important. Like, think about the fact that something like that would even need to be put into place.
Yeah.
Affirmative action at that time. Like, I think DEI and affirmative action are like, they're cousins or brothers, or they're it's a descendant of that, right? You don't need to, that doesn't happen or need to be implemented if it wasn't a predominantly white supremacy institution or country that we lived in that was built.
Yes.
So it came out of necessity because people that were qualified weren't considered for a job because I didn't go to the same school that you and your son went to, that you and your daughter went to. You know what I mean? So the DEI stuff now, when you strip that away, you're literally going back. Here's how I feel. I almost feel like, this is my opinion, I feel like when Obama got elected twice, because he was elected by white and black people. It wasn't just one. You know what I mean? When he got elected, it felt like yes, people wanted something different from the norm. But for where we are today in 2025, it's almost like, you know what? You guys advanced and got to a point where it's like these talking point woke and all of these things. You guys did so much. Since you want to complain about things and we've had this much progress, let's just go back and rewind it all. Since you want to complain,
flag on the play. We're fucking going back 50 years. Everyone's deported.
Since you don't appreciate the food that we gave you, we're eating lobster and shrimp and steak and all this stuff. And since you're not satisfied with the shrimp and the seafood that we gave you, how about we give you nothing? Let's just go back to intestines and
fucking potatoes.
That is hilarious.
So yeah, I think it's again, like, coming back to it, it's that's what makes it so sad and why people are so affected by it, because it strips away. You're no longer going to look at me and my qualifications. And that's, again, coming back to Trump, where he goes, we're getting rid of this stuff and we're going to go based on merit.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's a bunch. Like, I heard what he said, and objectively speaking, that sounds fantastic. But coming from him, no, it's a bunch of, so it's a bunch. Yeah. So it's just like you're because you have no way, there's nothing to check. There's no checks and balances to say that's exactly what you're looking at. There's nothing in place for that.
Here's a different perspective of to kind of piece this all together, though, right? Mm-hmm. So because of the implementation of affirmative action and DEI stuff, right? Mm-hmm. I believe it's going to be, this is just, I always say this, politics and political concepts are a pendulum. We're always going to be swinging.
Yeah.
So think about it. Since you made a great point, since Obama got elected, right, there's been a lot more, I would say, people of ethnic origin or just generally different ethnicities that have been more accepted into the political system, right? Okay. So it's more now like, whereas it used to be a predominantly white,
it is more diverse now.
It's way more diverse now, right? Sure. Same thing with the I think with, when you look at people in the employment sector, right? They're openly out there doing whatever, living their life, right? So now, because this removal of the DEI protections, I think because it's kind of shifted up to where it's now a new norm, I think it's going to be harder for it to go back all the way like it used to be, because all people like me, like, dude, God forbid they ever say, oh, you can't be a lawyer. You can't be a lawyer because of the color of your skin or something like that. You know what I'm saying? Or you have to, if you didn't, never saying that this would happen. I'm just saying, God forbid they were to say you need to come from a certain lineage to do this. I think now when you factor in the fact that we have a new common norm and you have constitutional protections that are with case law that's literally on point, from a lawyer's perspective, like, it's kind of like, I like the fact that we had that new norm. Maybe it got a little too wild for some people, right? You know, where, because like, look, I don't disagree with, you know, you choosing your pronouns, but I don't want to put it in my email because I don't even know what the like, I don't know what it is.
No. And that's a great point, right? Because I think it's like across the board. It's like whether it doesn't matter what ethnicity, what gender you are. I think it does matter about what you bring to the table and the merit and the accomplishments that you've had prior to accepting that position, right? What you touched upon getting rid of, you know, these initiatives and like rolling it back. That's an excellent point, right? Like I do think that we have to look at it from the perspective that we're only like 60 somewhat years removed from segregation. You know, my father was somebody that had to use colored restrooms. When he used a white restroom by mistake, like, you know, in the South at the time, people were giving him the side eye. Dude. Like what is this guy doing? Like using that restroom?
This is, but I just, since you brought it up, I've got to say, like, if I could go back in time, I would love to be like one of the first people to take a piss in a white only, like urinal. Just be like, I got your urinal, bitch.
So I see it. I mean, I see it from both spectrums, right? Because like at the time, you know, Curtis brought up an excellent point. Like, look, like those measures needed to be put in because of like the extreme inequality. But the demographic of the United States has also changed drastically since the 60s. We're a lot more multi-ethnic than like we ever were. Like I think you know, at the time you could argue that we were almost like a more homogenous population, right? Like, you know, back in the 60s where it's maybe just like a majority white and then some black, but now you have Asian, Hispanic, you know, white, black, you know, like ethnicities from all over. And we do see that in politics where like there are congressmen and women, you know, senators, judges, people from all walks of life.
Yeah, man. But yeah, that's, you know, I don't know how much of a Dave Chappelle fan you are, Mike.
Oh, huge Dave Chappelle.
So you guy's a genius. I want to stay on topic before I go rant and talk about a comedian and be like, I don't know what we're talking about again. But he had a skit where he was like, he had these segments of the first black person to do the things in the white like spaces. So it's like who was the first guy to take in the white only thing? He's probably like, and he just like, you know, and you had a picture. There's a picture I saw recently of I don't know, it's some figure. And it could have been Photoshopped too now, because now reality is warped. Everybody needs to give Thanos his reality stone back, and then just like, you know, because you don't know what's real and what's not anymore when it's on the internet. But it's somebody taking the drink out of a white-only water fountain, but it's a black guy. I don't know if it was Richard Pryor or it couldn't have been Rick James, but it was somebody of prominence. It was like, you know what I mean? The face is like, it was a younger version of somebody that was prominent, but it was just like think like how much of a statement that is, and somebody taking a photo of them, and it's just it's hilarious, man. But yeah, we can find humor in all of like the horrible things. You have to. You have to, man.
Well, you know, segueing away from anything political oriented, you know, we're talking about a lot of artists, right? And one of the conversations that, you know, we had with a prior guest, somebody that you're very familiar with, Caesar. Yeah, man. Very, very talented graphic designer. Love him, I'm going to put his info on the screen again for you guys to check him out, Caesar. We have talked to artists, or we like to talk to artists about like the coming of AI, right? And like AI, you know, kind of making its way through, you know, artistry. So with Caesar from a design standpoint, and somebody whose entire industry is purely focused on like the aesthetics, right? The image generation nowadays has gotten like insane. Yeah. But nowadays on the music side and on like even say like the spoken word side, you have a lot of artists who are generating all of like these crazy prompts to create music, to create lyrics, to write movie scripts. What's your perspective on it right now?
I think that it's a huge handicap for creativity and critical thinking when it comes to at least creating from my standpoint as a writer and as I can't call myself a composer, but somebody that's that writer and a performer, I think it's a handicap and a crutch. Somebody like Caesar, when you're doing graphic design and things like that, it's a benefit to him. And I think that there's pros and cons for everything, because I have a good friend of mine, Orange's Media, again, more plugs. You know, I didn't get here by myself. So he loves AI, pro AI, like by large in part. There are some things that he disagrees with, but we have these conversations and sometimes they get a little heated. But he comes from he's a photographer, he's a videographer. You know, his moniker is Orange is Media. So, you know, like he sees a lot of the benefits of AI and teaches and these things. I think when it's all animated and things like that, CGI, like I'm completely fine with it, because we know CGI has been around for the longest. You know, it's not really a meteor that just crashed in New York. It's like watching the Avengers movie or whatever the case may be. So I think it has its benefits to bring certain things to life. But I think it's when you're an artist and you're creating, we all use certain things. We all get our inspiration from certain things, but using ChatGPT, for example, to help me write a song, it just, for me, it's like you lose the soul of the art. It's like the soul isn't there anymore. You use the machine, and even if that machine is pulling from other people's experiences, I know for me as an artist, I can't confidently get up there and perform and do my thing if I don't really like truly believe what I'm saying. Even from an entertainment aspect, a lot of my stuff, me personally, I can't get up there and perform things that I don't feel confident in, that I wrote, that I believed in at the time. I can't. It's harder for me to do that. It'll be harder for me to commit to memory, because if it's really who you are, you don't have to try.
Yeah.
It's just, you're just being. So I just think that it's unfortunate in the spaces that AI is used, when it's like, here's my perspective, because Orange is, and I'll use him as an example. For him, 90% of AI is good, 10% is bad.
Yeah.
And for me, it's like 10% is good, 90% is bad. And I feel that way because I've seen more people use it for nefarious means than positive means. I like the fact that this is what I love about AI. Beanie Siegel, he there's something up with his voice. He found a way to use AI to where when he's rapping now, he can sound like his original self. I don't know what's up with his voice. I don't know all the details. Again, Google and fact check the things, but AI helped him feel like his self. There was technology that was put in place to make him whole again, right? Yeah. I think that's a beautiful thing. That's a beautiful thing because it's his voice. But when you have an artist that puts out a song pretending to be Kendrick Lamar and he didn't actually do it, that's dangerous to me. That's you know what I mean?
100% see what you're saying. And the reason I say that is because, look, I think one thing that you brought up is it doesn't have that like feeling, right? That original feeling. And I think one of the reasons why it's interesting to see the perspective from artists is because I am especially artists. I'm not an artistic person, right? I have a lot of great theories and concepts that I just don't have the skill to put in. That's one of the reasons why, me and Josh make such a great team. Josh is my, I give some of the ideas and Josh knows how to do those ideas the way that they need to be done. To good. Yeah. So not all things considered, Josh and I, we have our internal like little arguments and debates about using technology and AI because, this is the most funniest thing is like I use a calendar on my phone. For the longest time, Josh used a calendar on his refrigerator that he put in.
I have a fridge calendar.
And I'm like, that's the dumbest shit ever. But and that's not AI, but like there'll be social media videos we edit from our podcast, right?
Yeah.
some of them, you know, I'll just be like, Josh, I'm running it through this program, bam, bam, bam. I'm gonna post, bam, bam, and Josh will be like, no, you got to do this, and I'm like, no, fuck it, I don't care.
Yeah.
But it's because he has that like touch, right? And the way that I can describe it the best is, you know, we joked about me being a barista earlier, right? Like I enjoy a good cup of coffee, right? And I have a good. We spent a shit ton of money on our coffee machine, and it's one of those things that, look, when we put espresso to espresso and I go to an espresso machine, Nespressos can make a great cup of coffee. But you know what? I enjoy grinding the beans, putting it, brewing it, making sure, you know, it's that craft, right?
Yeah.
So, but it's partially, but if you hand, you know, a regular person just a cup of coffee, both cups of coffee, they may enjoy one over the other, but how many people are going to go through and craft the way I invest as much money as I did to get a cup of coffee?
That was honestly, that was an excellent example.
Absolutely.
Like you being a barista and wanting to make your own coffee.
I'm not a barista, by the way.
No, he is.
I just fucking.
Let me tell you folks. Like for the past decade, this guy has been obsessed with buying like the best espresso machines, you know, always hyping it up. Oh, Josh, like I got this really great deal on this machine. And he's always like, anytime you go over to his place or anytime you come into the office, let me make you a cup of coffee. Yeah. Personal injury lawyer and barista. But he brought up an excellent point. Yeah. Because a cup of coffee, it's look, like I can drink drip coffee, right? Okay, yeah. There's a difference between drip and then having like a coffee made by you, right? One is more efficient, but it lacks the craftsmanship.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But the thing is what's interesting, right? Because there's also what we're talking about is how much does the audience or the person consuming care about the craftsmanship behind the scenes.
Right. That's keep going.
Yeah. So I think like it's like this very, very touchy subject, I think, like on both ends of the spectrum, because, you know, you say Orange, like he's 90-10 one way, you're 10-90 the other. I'm more of like 60-40, you know, 50-50 depending on how I'm feeling. Yeah. Because I use AI tools to make my job, you know, to simplify my job and to make the process more efficient. But I'm adding the personal touch on the back end. But then there's the other end of the spectrum is like how much is too much, where you have some people who are like overly relying on it.
Correct.
And allowing AI to take over the entire creative process.
That's the problem. That's the you. If I'm making I feel like I don't even have to do this because you really did just do an excellent job of making that metaphor, Mike, with the coffee and the craftsmanship. Yeah. When we have to eat to survive, right? So it's like all these fast food places exist for people that are on the go and whatnot. But there is nothing as three men here. There is nothing, at least to me, there's nothing better in coming home and your girlfriend, your wife, whatever the case may be, she made you a meal. If she can cook, if she sucks at cooking, then, you know, sucks. You guys are, you might be the cook. You might be the cook. But there's nothing better than a meal that's made out of love, and you can taste it. You know what I mean? Like that's the quality. It surpasses most of there because you know that there was care put into it. It wasn't just done by a machine for efficiency. So I think that the efficient part of it for business, again, supply and demand. It's like people need to eat every 2 seconds. You can't have a home cooked meal. You know what I mean? It's a luxury now, where because of everything being so like microwave now, everything's like in hyper speed. Everything's like go. You know what I mean? You don't have the time. So when you have somebody that appreciates a specific craft, you can go to this particular store. If I love, you know, samurai swords or whatnot, if I could go to Japan and make a sword myself, which I know is possible, like I would have more value for that sword that I made with my bare hands than somebody else did, unless it was somebody that I super respected in that space. But yeah, like you said, Josh, the over the reliance on it is what's handicapping. And what I was gonna go into before that was like the social dilemma, that documentary that was on Netflix. I don't know if you guys can remember that or if you watched it.
Yeah, I've watched it. Yeah.
I don't think I did.
It's a phenomenal. I highly recommend it, and I think it came out. If it wasn't because COVID is like a blur. That's like COVID to me is like the new BC AD. It's like what life was before COVID and then what life is now. It's like, so it was such a interesting thing because you had the creators and like the heads of like Google and all these things on there, and you're watching these people that create these inventions tell you that they do not allow their children to use the things that they invented.
Yeah.
What does that tell you? That if they don't let their kids do it, but it's okay for your kids to do it. You've had people, I don't know if it was Steve Jobs, again, I hate misquoting, but you have people that are prominent figures of creating a lot of the day-to-day things that we do right now. When they don't let their family or their things participate in it, I think it's something that you should pay attention to because it handicaps their growth. They know that.
No, you're 100% right. You want to know what's hilarious? So I was reading Kanye tweets. Evidently Kanye got on Twitter or X and just started like going on a rampage. Yeah. 24 like last night or something like that, right? But look for some of the quotes and put them up there. Some of them are so funny. But that's my point. Kanye, I believe Kanye had a thing where he didn't want his daughter to have social media.
Yeah.
And I agree with him. Like he's on social media doing the wildest you know, but it's like to hammer down your points a little bit more, Josh, and this is a great example of like how I kind of internalize what you were just saying is, look, I think there's a fine balance between, you know, technology and things taking over entirely and making us kind of useless versus appreciating the old way, right? So like Josh and I, you know, we don't hunt. I own a lot of guns. But I don't hunt, you know, like, but we went hunting on Friday with one of our interns, Mario.
I'm gonna put some footage on screen for people. Yeah.
And I'll tell you what, man, it was an experience.
It was.
It was the hardest thing I've ever done hunting. We were walking with a shotgun, you know, and we had our hunting license and all that stuff and licensed in Florida. We were in legitimate like hunting grounds. And you know, we were hunting these little birds called snipes, right? Yeah. And they would pop out of the ground and you would it's hard as to hit them. And I didn't even think I hit one entirely. Like I think I nicked him and then Mario like took him out. Yeah. But it was one of those things where you know, we still haven't like cooked them and ate them, but like I know just killing it was hard. Yeah. Then going through the whole process of having to clean it and get all the little bullets things out and then go through and then to cook it. Yeah. Like
shout out to our boy Mario, John Wayne with that shotgun.
I wish I could see
the reaction, the reaction time from the bird popping up to him pulling that gun out and perfect aim, just knocking that bird out the sky was insane,
dude. But I do a lot of fishing, right? I went fishing yesterday, as a matter of fact, and we were offshore. You know, we got the shit beat out of us on the wind. It's tough, man. I left home at 2 a.m, got back home at 7 p.m. You know, and I'm notorious for catching the shit. Now I don't clean it. You know, I give it to my brother to clean or whatever. Yeah. But there's nothing better than cooking that meal. Yeah. But it's like if I had to do that every day.
Yeah. It's a lot. We don't live in that time.
Dude. Go to Publix, get some chicken and throw it in the fryer.
Yeah, man. Everything is for the times, man. Just the times that we're in reflect the need. I think for more technology, but I think it's just anything in moderation. I think it's anything that's abused or too heavy-handed in one way and handicaps you. And it's just like, I'll say this, I'll go on record to say this. I can't, like what you did, like to clean the thing, I can't hunt and to do those things. I can't. It's like I know how to, you know, clean it once it's already in the store and then cook it myself. But those processes, we can't do that all the time. I couldn't have been where I'm at today. We wouldn't be doing this podcast if I was doing things in an archaic way all the time. So I think that's that healthy balance of technology and humanity that's needed. And I think, again, like looking at those scales, you know, the balance of it all is what's important. I just think if you If you handicap yourself by doing things one way the whole time, it's just you're only hurting yourself. And then you have to find a partner. If you are that way, your partner, like how y'all have y'all relationship, y'all business relationship, it's important to have somebody.
Not together.
Yeah, I know, right?
We have to clarify that.
Yeah, I know, right? That's why I said business relationship.
There's a lot of deep love in this room, so we need to start clarifying stuff.
Oh man, I was like, here's my underlying goal. I was like, if I'm gonna be uncomfortable, I'm gonna make them uncomfortable.
Yeah, all the like everyone was just like looking at each other. Like, wait a minute, am I gay?
Oh man, who would have thought I'd have been the one to push these things? But no, in all honesty, you know what I mean. Like you need to have a partner that excels in another direction than you do in order to make the things work. Otherwise, you know what I mean. You guys wouldn't be have this podcast right now. You guys wouldn't be reaching the audience that you're doing. So it's like balance is important. Balance and evenness is super important. Man.
Balance is very important, especially in planes.
Oh,
you like
sponsorship.
That? You like that? No.
Oh no, not okay.
That's the third thing
No,
we were talking about today.
the two plane crashes that happened within like a few days of each other. Actually, I'm glad you brought that up. So Kurt, like you travel a lot for work. Yeah. Right. You travel a lot for work. Yeah. You're flying around the country. You've had gigs like in Atlanta, New York. Yeah. All over. Mm-hmm. What's your perspective on this, man? Like, and because these are two major airline incidents that have happened in like a very, very short span.
24 hours.
Within 24 hours. One in DC, one right over Philly.
Man, it's insane. It's heartbreaking. It's like, rest in peace. Like genuinely, again, coming back to humanity, I feel and hurt for those families. The intent is when you get on a plane is to make it to your destination safely. And it's like, I think it's something that unfortunately a lot of us, things that are automatic, like we take so much of what's automatic for granted. I don't know. I'm not going to sit here and get into a conspiracy theory on why and how it happened and things like that. People lost their lives. I think that's absolutely horrible. And it's insane that doesn't happen every day. So to have it happen back to back, I can see how people are like, what's going on? Yeah. Like, you know what I mean? Like that's not normal on that wide of a, it's not normal.
It's rare.
It's super rare.
You know what I mean?
It's super rare. Like, and the fact that you had two major incidents that happened literally within like 2 days of each other. Yeah. I mean, it's pretty insane.
And that's what coming back to,
how does it make you feel as someone that uses planes? Like, are you more paranoid now to travel on a plane?
Man, me personally, no, because I'm like, again, because of how rare it is. So the fact, man, I don't know how to frame this to not make this sound like off-putting at all, but it's almost like the fact that they did happen, I think has everybody on high alert. So I should feel more relaxed. Would there be like a thing in the back of my mind when I'm buckling my seat? I can think about the last time I was actually on a plane. I think I was going to, this is so insensitive. I'm doing this to myself. I did it, I thought it, but I didn't say it to the woman, right? The woman next to me, it was like her first time or second time flying, right? I've flown a bunch of times. And she was nervous. And I was calming her down, doing the things, right? But then mentally, I was just like, this is, for me, I was like, well, either we all make it or none of us make it. And then I was just like, for me, like, you can't say that to someone that's in fear. But for me, it's almost like, I tell people now, when something bad is happening, I tell myself, nobody died and nobody got pregnant. Like how, you know what I mean? Like it wasn't a life-altering thing in the moment and we can get past this. So, so for me now, how I feel about it being on a plane, I personally still would feel safe, but I came across some information that I don't know if people in the, I believe it was there was some people that were fired in like aviation recently, and I don't know if that led to one of the crashes. Where it's like this is again coming back to Trump's rhetoric being dangerous, where it's like the first thing out of his mouth was talking about DEI and how they had to do with plane crashes, and it was just like but everybody that was flying was white.
Yeah, and see that's like when I heard that shit, I was like, I don't understand what's going on. But at the end of the day, listen, like my whole take on it is, I believe from what I know, and I don't have time to pay attention to it as much.
Yeah.
But from what I know, there was a situation where it involved human error. With the Washington flight, I don't know too much about the other flight, but basically what I understand is there was a miscommunication between the military channel and the FAA.
Okay.
Which ended up leading to the impact. But who knows? I don't know what if there was a DEI hire that did that.
No, look,
it's
and I want to clear the air on this.
Yeah.
I think that those statements were very, very insensitive, right? Like,
1,000%.
regardless of where we stand on the political spectrum,
Right.
for him to immediately circle back around and say, hey, like, it's a DEI initiative. No, like that has nothing to do with it. These are two of the rarest occurrences ever. Like, I mean, you're talking about, especially with the military pilots, those are our most trained pilots that we have, like, across like the US, some of the top pilots like globally.
Right.
So for something, for something like that to happen, it has to be like an egregious error, like on, whether it's like on the FAA, whether it's on like the air flight controllers, something else, is going on, and that it's very, very unfair to pin the blame on.
So
on
here's something that should piss both of you off, right? Have you ever heard of the concept of sovereign immunity?
No, I'm not gonna pretend either. Please
so
explain.
here's what sovereign immunity is, right? Basically, this is very, very like dumbed down, right? I'm not going to get into super specifics, but it's the concept that, in order for us as lawyers to bring lawsuits against government entities, they have to allow us to bring lawsuits against government entities.
Wow.
And on top of that, when there's certain limitations to how much we as lawyers can sue, right? So like for the concept of negligence, right? Negligence is what we lawyers sue for anyone that causes an accident or injury or kills someone unintentionally, right? Because if it was intentional, it would be a crime, and you can go to jail, or you can also sue for what's called an intentional tort.
Yeah.
Well, so negligence is unintentional per se. And essentially, for the most part, I believe, I don't know specifically what the U.S. and USA or United States military or the FAA or what their limitations are, if there are any, when it comes to negligence. But one thing that it instantly piqued with me is, look, the people that were responsible for this incident are definitely going to be the FAA, and I'm speaking specifically about the one in Washington, the FAA. And the military, because had the military helicopter not been above its height from what I've seen, everything would have been fine. And if there was a accurate communication through the FAA to the pilots, everything should have been fine, right? Right. So ultimately, either the U.S. military, or the United States and the FAA, which is also part of the, governed by the United States, they're the ones that's going to be liable to these families and to these people, right? Yeah. Do you think it's right? Do you think they should be protected for any like monetary limits? How do you feel about being able to sue the government for causing the injury or death? Because I'm telling you, like my wife and my infant are going on a trip in a few weeks, and it made me think.
Yeah,
if
it's in the back of your mind
my child was on that flight, and my wife was on that flight, there couldn't be a dollar amount that I would not want there wouldn't be an amount that you can pay. The U.S. government could pay me to make me want to not like just demolish every single political figure in there. They would need to be terminated, and I would want their life ruined. Yeah. Because for the rest of their life financially. Yeah. Because at the end of the day, my life's ruined, So how does that make you feel? Do you think a government should be able to be protected, and you should only be allowed to sue them for a certain amount of money?
No, because like you said, it's human life. Again, I think that there's such where we are right now. I think as a society, unfortunately, we're so desensitized to where when the fact that something like that can exist is, to me, is an issue, because it's not even on the other end. There's no limitation to where how much the government can. If I didn't pay my taxes, they're going
to come after you. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
They're going to take your freedom.
You know what I mean? You can drag me, jail me, you can do whatever you want. But if you did something egregious to me and my family, and you respond, and then I can't hold you accountable, there's a limitation to how accountable that I can hold you. That's insanity. And this is why I'm not this is why I have such an issue and a problem with the concept or the system of law in this country. I don't know the laws in all of the other countries, because I haven't lived there. I know where I live here. But my major issue with that is things like that, because it is unfair, and you can't dress up or put so much litigation between my family. Like, again, I don't have a wife and a child. You know what I mean? If I did, people that know me know how serious I take the concept of having a family. So if that was in your shoes, like it's like you took my wife and my child from me, or if I sent my wife and my child on a plane to come meet me and they didn't make it, and I find out that either your pilot was negligent, or your there was a faulty system, or whatever the case may be, I want that thing fixed. And it's like, you have to take responsibility. You have to be, but there's certain professions where it's like, there is no margin of error. You can't, like, you can't. We're humans, and it's going to happen. But okay, you made a mistake. You still have to be accountable for that mistake. There's certain jobs that's way too serious, and you can't hide behind paperwork and say that I hate the concept of that. I just hate the concept of that.
To be fair, their argument for implementing certain things is obviously they worry about being sued by lawyers like me. That it doesn't. I've taken cases that are really, really frivolous when you look at it in the grand schemes of the type of cases I handled, right?
Right.
A little minor fender bender that I take, and I can, extract a settlement through litigation and my negotiation tactics for a significant amount of money. And I extract a significant amount of money compared to I've handled, people that have been sexually assaulted, stuff like that. So that's the spectrum of types of cases I handled, right? And there's a lot of times that we get a significant amount of money for, in the perspective scope, things that aren't that bad compared to things we aren't able to get a lot of money for, things that are really bad. And it's about the insurance companies, right? Insurance companies, they want to, it's risk assessment, right? So the more risk that's out there, the more higher premiums are going to be. And basically people either won't be able to afford insurance, or the insurance companies won't want to pay, right? So it all kind of boils down to, like, they're still creating these kind of laws that protect insurance companies and people. And I feel like, look, do I want to sue the company or sue the U.S. government and see it go bankrupt? Probably not. But at the same time, do I want them to understand that that's a possibility and they need to hire the best person and they can't?
Right.
Like, I think you put those protections in place. It gives you that, like, pillow that you can, okay, I can, you know what I'm saying? It's only going to cost me this much. I can tax them and, get it back.
And to touch upon what you're both saying, like, I do think that a lot of these corporations, larger corporations, and even the government, there's a lack of transparency and a lack of accountability. So even, circling back to, like, the vaccine during the pandemic, right?
Yep.
Not being able to sue any of, like, the not being able to sue Moderna, Pfizer, or Johnson & Johnson if you had an after effect due to the vaccine. What we want as people collectively is accountability, because the reality is, these were two devastating accidents. People
Right.
lost their wives, their kids, their husbands. That's going to create a ripple effect amongst all of those, that entire family, that entire social network of people.
Mm-hmm.
We can empathize with it.
For sure.
Right? We can empathize with it reading about it, but imagine how they're feeling.
Yeah.
Right. So as much as I can empathize with it, I can't even imagine if I had lost either of my kids to something like that. I mean, Jola and Atticus going on this trip, right? It's like you don't even want to comprehend.
Right.
That
I don't even want to think about it.
You don't even want to think
Yeah.
about like that something like that is possible. And God forbid something happened. You're not even given the tools to go after the government or the agency in the manner necessary to hold them truly accountable for something like that happen and make a change.
Because that's the problem. I feel like, limitations on being able to allow for like negligence, right? Any limitations that are placed when I'm told I can't get more than this amount, it's a slap in my face because basically you're putting a number on that person.
Correct.
That life.
And really and truly, and not to interrupt you, but ultimately, there's no dollar amount that's going to replace your family.
No.
That's especially the one that you you legitimately created.
There's
You know what I
no
mean?
dollar amount. Look, I hate the fact that, there's a thing such as a personal injury lawyer, right? I think, I'm a little bit more diverse because I handle business litigation. I handle real lawyer.
Mm-hmm.
Like personal injury is I like to say it's one of my easier areas of practice.
Okay.
But I hate the fact that you actually have to have, a personal injury type practice because it's really, really disgusting that people just don't compensate people for their injuries.
Yeah.
Right? And the fact that I have to parade around, or you see people in my profession parading billboards around, and the fact that in order for me to bring it to people's attention, like every time you put someone on a billboard and I got millions of dollars, dude, you can't, I don't give a shit. I want my back to work. I want my neck to work. I want my shoulders to work. It's worth more than any amount of money in the world.
Right.
And the shitty thing is that's all I as a personal injury lawyer can do is get them money for their injuries. But realistically, when I rep these clients and I talk to these people, there's nothing more in the world they want than just to have their knees and shit back. Because, dude, I'll tell you what, no matter what, you get someone millions of dollars, I'd give back any amount of money to have a decent night's sleep.
Health is wealth, man. Health is wealth.
Man, preach about it, man. It's we again, a lot of us take it for granted, the day-to-days, like just being able to come in here and walk. There's cats that, again, you deal with it. And I appreciate you bringing that perspective. You know what I mean? Everything about these conversations, we all talked about like real topics here. So again, appreciate you, Josh. But for real, we take advantage of those things so much that until it's gone, then you realize like, how good you had it.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? So unfortunately, money can't bring those things. Money can't bring those things back, and it's unfortunate. But it's for people like you that are trying to. You said that all you can do is give them money. You wish you could give them, or I'm paraphrasing, you wish you could give them whatever their state of life was before they had to come see you. It would be best case to give them that back, but you can't. You know what I mean? But it's at least still, if you know that whoever they're suing is in the wrong, you need people like yourself to be able to fight for those people because they're just trying to keep it together. They don't have the capacity to go through all of the litigation to get compensation for their life being altered from someone else's negligence or just being super malicious or whatever the case may be. So, hats off to people in your profession that are doing it in a way to legitimately help people that were legitimately wronged. Those frivolous ones, it's unfortunate. You're talking about the billboards and things like that. The messed up part about it that kept entering my mind is that when people see that, I've met so many people that the smallest thing would happen, and then the first thing in their mind is, I want to
wanna
sue.
sue.
I'm going to sue them. You should this, that. And I'm like, I'm not doing that, because it's like, again, coming back to balance, you're abusing a thing that's meant for one thing, and you want to take advantage of that to come up because you're lazy and you don't want to work. Because you don't like your life as it is. And you're like, this is my chance to get rich fast, so I don't have to work anymore. And that's the effed up part. You know what I mean? So that aspect of it, I can see why certain people have those protections. You know what I mean? Because people abuse those powers. But for the government, for these scenarios, what you're talking about, no, it shouldn't be there. So anyway, just wanted to balance it out too, because I can see, again, from multiple perspectives. People abuse things all the time. The McDonald's coffee thing. Well, I don't want to get into that, but yeah, I'm pretty sure you're familiar with that.
We actually brought it up on the last episode. Yeah.
Look, man, I mean, Curtis, I think it's funny. This is to draw it all in, man.
Mm-hmm.
You said you've never really done any long form content. I just want to let you know you're the longest video we've done.
Oh,
yet.
Yeah, man. This is
So, buddy, you're a natural, man.
You're a natural, brother.
Thank you. I'm an artist. I can talk. What can I say? So if it's great for you guys, thank you.
Well, look, man, I really want to sincerely. This is the first time we met. I hope we get a chance to meet a lot more. And
yeah, man.
I'd love to do as much as we can to help you with your artistry and help push you out there, man.
Thank you, man.
Please.
Curtis, give the people a quick plug. Where can they follow you? I'm going to put all that information on screen as well.
Awesome. Thank you. So you can find me at Mr. McKinnon on most all social platforms, mr.mckinnon. You can find me on TikTok at MISTER MCKINNON. Again, I'm a huge nerd, so on TikTok it really is just like me reviewing wrestling content because I'm a huge pro wrestling fan. But Mr. McKinnon, you can legitimately Google me, and that's not a flex. It's a pleasure and an honor to be able to say that, because I know what it looked like before. Matter of fact, Caesar brought it up. It's like he sent me a random screenshot from like 10 years ago, me like Googling something, and only so much came up. And then now it's like, it's just there. And I'm like, so you can find me at Mr. McKinnon. You can Google me. I'm on all streaming platforms, social networks. Thank you guys for the follow. Thank you guys for the conversation.
And you perform downtown.
Yes. So
if you're a local to Orlando.
Yes. So actually tomorrow, man, I don't know when you guys are going to upload this, but every first Monday I host an open mic called New Peace Mondays. It's at Bink's Coffee. It's from 7 to 10. It's Black History Month. So, we're going to be focusing on that for this month, and Black History Month and love. So every first Monday at Bink's Coffee, that's what we're doing. I am involved, like you said, in various projects. So you just have to follow me. You have to follow along with me on my journey. I have other aspirations now, and as they change and evolve, you know what I mean? As you conquer one goal, it's like there's another mountain to climb. So thank you guys for the platform, and I super appreciate it. Thank you for the conversation. This is important things. These are real things that's important to talk about, and I know I shy away from a lot of these things because things are so like hot and controversial, and people are ready to X you at anything that you say. But this is important, I think, what you guys do. So thank you guys so much for having me, man.
Man, Curtis, dude, thank you so much for coming on. We appreciate the time. To everybody who's been tuning in, over the last year, thank you so much for helping the audience grow as much as it has. If you have any suggestions, please leave them in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And this is the Only Lawsuits podcast. We'll see you soon.
Yeah.
Peace.
Peace.